over at the viewers, like, oh my God.
Hi, everybody. This is Karen Cooper. I'm the founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate, and I am here with you today with my friends Courtney Brown and
Hello.
Kate Lewis,
Hello.
who are both agents at Pearson Smith Realty as well, where I am. I have a team, Platinum Group Real Estate team. Caitlin works with me, and I wanted to talk to these ladies today because we're all moms and in different phases of life. And it is a common struggle that a lot of us have, trying to figure out how to balance our children, depending on whatever age you have, and real estate, because real estate by itself is a real struggle. So I thought it would be good for us to have a conversation. We got lots of comments on Facebook. I also got some on Instagram with kind of some questions and some thoughts. So we're going to address those as well. So if you are catching this live, then please put your comments in the comment section and we will try to answer your questions. If you're catching this on the replay, of course, you can always message us later. So ladies, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us how long you've been in business, how many kids you have, how old they are, a little bit about your real estate business and what that looks like. Caitlin, we'll start with you.
So I started in real estate in 2011. I've been with Remax and I'm now currently with Pearson Smith Realty in Ashburn. I did about 11 million in sales last year. I have a wonderful husband, a daughter who's almost 2, and 2 crazy dogs.
Who we've heard barking. We were talking about maybe we should do a session on how to deal with dogs. And Courtney, you have a newborn. We were hoping maybe she would make a cameo during our
During she definitely can. My mother-in-law is here right now and she has her. So
nice. So tell us about you.
Okay, my name's Courtney Brown. I've been in the business about 6 years now. I did two years solo, and then my husband joined me. So we've been a team ever since. And let's see, we just brought on a buyer's agent the end of last year. We have a transaction coordinator. It's just me and my husband and the buyer's agent, and then we have 2 dogs. And what we're here for is about the kids. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 5-week-old.
Oh my gosh, 5 weeks. Are you sleeping through the night?
No. I pretty much have coffee.
Yes.
To get, this interview done.
Yes. So are you, so let's talk about that for a minute while we're kind of on the newborn topic. And Caitlin, you can relate to this too, because you've gone through this not too long ago, really. So are you back meeting with clients now, or is your husband handling all of the showings and things like that?
So he was handling all the showings, everything. I wasn't even for the first month, I would say I was MIA. I did do some stuff beforehand for this pregnancy because I learned with my first. I planned some videos and marketing stuff to have ready to go so that it looks like I'm working, just to keep my name out there, because I am our face of the business. If we get referrals, usually someone is writing me on Facebook or writing me on Instagram, rather than, commenting on Philip's Instagram or anything like that. So I had videos prepped. I've got about 10 videos prepped to go each month, and I send those out via BombBomb, and then I also put them out on our YouTube and promote them on our social media. So it just keeps us top of mind, keeps the referrals coming in, because when I had my first, who's now 2.5, we didn't do a deal for 3 months because it was a shock to us, and we were not planned. So I made sure this time around not to, let anything go and to keep the marketing going. So I am not doing much for the first month. I did make my first appointments this week because my husband is skiing in Colorado. So
you have to,
yeah. So I had, and it feels good to be back, I mean, not full time or anything. When he gets back, I might take a step back again, but.
Okay. So I remember what you were saying, Courtney, about when you had your first daughter, you didn't do a deal for 3 months. Caitlin, I remember when Violet was born, what you went through, first time mom, and that first year was a struggle for you with your business. Is that right?
Absolutely. I had no idea what it was going to be like. And I just had I don't know. I guess I had this thought in my mind, like, I'll go back, after 2 weeks, I can respond to emails, I can help with clients. And I think because I was so unprepared, I remember taking her out with me to show a home to a client at like 3 weeks, which is insane.
Yeah.
No one should do that. You should take time off. But I just did it. I had to do it. And I still probably had one of the worst years in real estate that I have ever had and probably will have because I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
It's definitely a shock, like Courtney said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that.
So the preparing piece, I think, and I loved hearing what you were saying, Courtney, about how you prepared so many things in advance. I remember, all 3 of my boys are older now, but all 3 of them were born while I've been in business. And so I had, 3 kind of maternity leaves, as much as you can call it a leave. And so I remember that with my first one, I didn't know what to expect either. So we didn't plan anything. And so I love hearing you talk about how with the second one, you kind of planned out some content and you had some things ready. So it looked like you were working when maybe you weren't.
Yeah. I get people, clients and friends write me. They're like, "Oh my God, you look amazing." I'm
like, yeah, that was 6 months ago.
In my bed.
Okay, she actually does look amazing, though. I went to see her the other day, and I was like, "Oh, great!" Makeup on.
No sleep.
Well, you're fooling us all, so you're doing good with that. Well, so let's talk real quick, and we won't go too far into this because I know a lot of women maybe aren't at that baby stage, but let's talk briefly about maternity leaves because I know that's probably one of the questions I get a ton from people in the group. I've had women come to me directly. I remember, Caitlin, we talked about this before your baby was born. So what did your, kind of in a nutshell, what did your maternity leave look like? Was there a period of time? Who was covering for you? All that kind of stuff.
So I had an agent on our team, Jody. She helped me out. I just prepped her on all of my transactions that were currently happening, anything that was going to be happening. And she just took over. She was fantastic. So I would definitely recommend having someone completely take over your business. She would have totally stepped in and, taken on more clients for longer. I just felt the need to step back in. Because I'm kind of a control freak. But
and you did that at about 3 weeks. Is that when you kind of stepped back in?
Yeah, which I would not recommend. Like really, truly get someone to take over your business for at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I think you can gradually step back in.
Yes.
I mean, the second time, and Courtney, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you know what to expect. Yeah. So that's when I think you could step back in earlier.
Yep.
And you want to enjoy the time with your new baby. So
yes, for sure. Courtney, how about you?
No, I completely agree. The first time around, I was kind of the same way. I mean, Philip and I had just we had just joined Pearson's. We just changed brokerages, just kind of formed our own team, had a baby. And I am a control freak as well. And so, working with your husband, that's fun. Learning to not try to control too much. I mean, I first time around, I came back in way too soon. I don't even remember what week it was. Those are like a blur, the whole.
Yes. Well, I think that one of the misconceptions is that we can't step away. I mean, I remember with my first 2, it was about 4 weeks. And then with my last one, I actually took longer. I was out for 6 weeks. And what I would do is I would kind of stair step it. Like the first, so many weeks, couple of weeks, I was completely not available. Somebody covered for me. My phone was off. My email, I didn't check. And then as time went on, then I would maybe be engaging via email, I'd be taking calls, but other people would be handling appointments for me. And then I came back after that. So it is possible. I think all 3 of us are a lesson here. So between of us, we've done it, 6 times now. So it is very possible to take some time and it doesn't have to hurt your business. Let's talk about struggles. So we had a couple of people who were commenting on the post talking about struggles, particularly with inconsistency with the business. We heard struggles about scheduling with the kids. What happens when somebody's sick? You've got a full day of appointments. What happens when you've got a school closure? Courtney, why don't you start? Tell us about what you have felt to be your biggest struggles being a mom and growing your real estate business.
So I just think scheduling. It was like, that was mine, scheduling and multitasking. You know, what happens if the kid's sick, or how am I going to make it to, you know, this appointment, be here, you know, that first year, especially, that, you know, your child's always getting sick. So that was huge for me, because I was never one to use a Google Calendar. I mean, I kind of just go with like every day by day, how I used to be. Now, like, the solution to that is, if it's not in my Google Calendar, then I won't know about it. So yeah, Philip and I, just being on the same page with your husband too, that was a big thing for us.
So it sounds like it's forced you to be more organized, more scheduled, more regimented.
I think it's benefited our business, because definitely I'm a different person because of it. You know, I wake up earlier, I am more scheduled, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You know, that I think that's a great point, because you're absolutely right. There's, I don't know what I read or I heard or something one time that, you know, like, if you want something done, you give it to a busy person. And I have found that to be so true for my own life. The busier I am, the more productive I am, and the more I get done. And so when you bring children into your life, your everything gets busier and more hectic. And so it does force you, I think. So I can see where it would actually benefit your business in the long run, because it's making you have those systems and be more organized.
Yeah, systems. That's a huge thing. Yeah.
Okay. So. Caitlin, how about you? What have been some of your biggest struggles?
So I would say this last year, one of my biggest struggles was trying to do it all. And not just personally, you know, I would try to take a weekday off, because our job is flexible, and take my daughter to the park or take her to a play date. But, you know, I was trying to handle every lead that came in, every referral, and that's just not possible. So I would say the two biggest things that have helped with that struggle is hiring out.
Yes.
This year, I finally hired a more full-time transaction coordinator and client care person. I had someone before who was excellent, but she just wasn't full-time enough.
Yeah.
So now I have someone taking on that role. And towards the end of last year, I really started to refer out. I would drive anywhere from Bluemont to Alexandria City to Spotsylvania, and I've realized I just can't do that anymore. So referring it out, I think that's huge.
That is huge. And, you know, that's great advice for anybody, whether you are a mom or not in business, because we do tend to get stuck thinking that we have to do everything and that we have to do everything ourselves, and that nobody's going to accept a replacement. And really, that none of that is true. And it actually makes you better when you're able to focus on certain things and you're able to be more present. So I do think that's very powerful when it comes to hiring out. I like hearing how you are kind of shrinking your business in. So, you know, in the beginning, when you're brand new, we expand and you go everywhere and you take anything, and it doesn't matter if it's a $500 rental that's an hour away, you're going to go do it because you want that. But the busier you get with your business, you have to contract, actually. And the contraction, I think, actually makes your business better. I know for me, over the years, I have slowly, you know, contracted more and more geographically in terms of where I go. And then also in terms of what I'll do, what types of clients I'll serve, what types of transactions I'll handle, just because I can't do everything. And so there's no harm in referring things out or partnering with another agent. I mean, nobody says you have to be the one on the road driving to every appointment everywhere. So, So I love that you're doing that. Any other specific struggles that you guys want to talk about before we talk about some tips?
I think the biggest thing was childcare. I mean, for Courtney and I, both our daughters go to the same daycare. And I would say the hardest thing for me right now is we love our daycare provider, but she closes at 5. It's a hard stop at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And my husband, he doesn't get home until like 7. So I find I try to get as much work done as possible during the day, but my phone rings between 5 and 7 constantly. So, you know, you just kind of have to, I mean, this is hilarious. Some of you may laugh, but my daughter is very needy, and I sometimes have to go into my pantry, sneak away, and take a phone call. I mean, you just do what you have to do.
We've all done it. I remember standing in my laundry room, like using my body to barricade the door so that I can keep the kids out, so that I can play with them. So that is not a unique experience. So we have all had that experience. And, I think, Caitlin, because I have some of that now too, because one of my kids is, he's the youngest one is in a school where I have to pick him up, and I have to pick him up at 4:00. And, I have people who help me part of the week, but I don't have everyone for every day. So I have that same trouble. I pick him up and then I get home and I still have lots of work to do, or my phone is still ringing. And, I have this little person who's missed me and, kind of wants to see me. So, for myself personally, I tend to have a certain number of hours in the evening where I'm just maybe not available. And
that's what I just was going to say.
Yes. Yeah. To set the boundary, right, Courtney?
And that's my goal for this year. I was just talking, Philip, I'm trying to get him on board with it, but every podcast I've listened to and things, it's okay to set your phone down or put it in a drawer from like 5 to 7:30 or, whatever time your child goes to bed. So
absolutely. One thing that I do, and partly it's just because I am an early to bed person now, because, the kids make you wake up early. So, so I'm not conscious enough to talk on the phone at like 8:30 at night. So, some great advice I would say when it comes to that is when you get a phone call from a client and maybe they don't leave a message, then I just send a quick text back and I say, I'm sorry, I missed your call. Just wanted to make sure it's nothing urgent. I'm, settling my children in for the night, or I'm settling in for the evening myself. May I give you a call first thing in the morning? And I promise you, if you do that one time, they will never again call you in the evening like that. And as long as you call them back first thing the next day, it's perfectly fine. So it all works well.
That's good to take, because I always find myself like, I will say, oh, I'm with a client or I'm in a meeting, I never say, and that's probably like, why do I not say I'm with my kids, So.
Yeah, for years I didn't. For years I said, and I'll say still everything's an appointment, but in the evening like that, especially if it's late, 7 o'clock, if it's 7:30, I think it's perfectly reasonable and acceptable to say, I'm with my family right now, or I'm settling into bed, and I think that's fine. You mentioned childcare, so maybe let's talk about some options for that. So you guys both go to the same daycare?
Yep, we do.
Have you ever done anything else besides the out-of-home daycare?
I had a girl that was recommended to me. This was on month 2, I guess, when my daughter was 2 months old. She came to the house 2 days a week and watched her for a few hours. And then that was pretty much it. And then I went to daycare at 3 months.
Okay. Caitlin, you've always done the daycare, right?
I actually
didn't have your
mother-in-law. Yeah, my mother-in-law came and watched her. It was 2 days, then 3 days, and then it was every other day. So I just felt like my daughter needed to be in a more consistent
environment,
center, if you will. But I think it's important, even if you do this part-time, I think you need to have someone, because it's just not. To me, I've always felt uncomfortable taking my daughter on appointments unless it's a great friend or a family member. I just I don't know. To me, it's
not like
What'd you say? Yeah.
Did you say something, Courtney?
I just said, you should. I mean, it's a business, so do other businesses bring their kids? I have had to do it before, but I definitely don't think, I don't personally feel comfortable.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've done it myself from time to time, but it's not something that you want to make a regular practice out of. And even if you are a part-time agent, one of the things that and I've never done outside of home daycare. We had an au pair for a short period of time, which was really economical, actually. If you look into the pricing of it, when my kids were all 3 home and they were very, very young when they were in school. I've had nannies though that I paid by the hour, and those scenarios have actually turned out really great for me. And, even if money is an issue right now, maybe you only hire someone, like you said, Courtney, for a couple of hours, maybe it's every other day. So that way, if someone calls you on a Monday and you have your childcare on Tuesday, you can say, well, I'm booked today, but I can meet you tomorrow morning. It's not like it's multiple days before you can do something.
There's always ways.
There's always ways. Partner with another mom. If there's another mom in your brokerage that have similar issues, maybe you guys do sort of a child swap kind of thing. I mean, there's always creative ways if you think creatively and if you're open to them. to try to find solutions. So, and it's not just when your kids are little. I was telling you guys before we started, my kids, my oldest is going to be 15 in April. My youngest is 9. And so I can leave them home alone. I mean, they're really at the age where having a nanny or a babysitter is just doesn't make sense anymore. But the older one forgets to feed the younger one, and and then they fight with each other, and so it's actually almost more difficult when they're older, because
I was just gonna say, yeah,
I can't leave them for that long, maybe a few hours at a time. So it's actually presents a whole nother list of challenges. Let's talk for a minute before we talk about strategies. Let's talk about mom guilt, because I think that's a struggle. And, Caitlin, you were talking about wanting to take Violet to the park and the phone's ringing. How do you guys handle that? How do you deal with that?
Do you want to go first, Caitlin?
You go for it.
Well, I am dealing with that 100% right now, because my first daughter, she wants me so much. And then, I'm learning to have 2 kids now, and where do I even put my time and my, time for the business and them? And I feel guilty every single day. But, the only thing I can say is, I read some things, and it's just being successful and, being a working mom, at least they can look up to me that way. And as long as when I'm there with them, I try to be more present. I think that helps. If I can put my phone down, then at least I'm feeling like I'm having quality time versus.
Absolutely. I think that's the key. I think the key is, and it goes back to what Caitlin said about trying to do everything all at the same time. The key is being fully present where you are, because I know for my kids, when they were younger, they didn't necessarily want me hanging over them every hour, or, they didn't necessarily want to play with me. If we hung out together for 15 or 20 minutes and we read a book, or I played blocks or did whatever, then they were ready to move on to something else. So if, I find that sometimes if you can be just very focused and very present for even a short period of time, then you'd be surprised at how quickly they're ready to go do something else. And that can help to alleviate that.
It does. Yeah.
I think too, one of the great things about our business is it allows us some flexibility. We can do things. I'll try to volunteer. I used to when they were old, the right ages, but volunteer in the classrooms. And those are things that I could schedule in that if I was working in a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't have been able to do. So that's a good thing. One of my favorite tips, and I read this, I don't even know where, when my youngest was born, and especially when your kids are really little and they're learning things, and Courtney, you're in this stage, and Caitlin too with Violet, they're learning new words and they're doing all kinds of new experiences, is the fear of missing out, right? That because they're in childcare, you're working, you're missing something. So I made the decision that nothing was ever a first until I saw it. So it didn't matter, when my first 2 were little, my mom had them for a while, and it didn't matter if she could call me at work and say, Ben just rolled over, and I would say it doesn't count because it doesn't count when I see him do it. So somebody, I read that or saw that somewhere, and that actually, that really helped me. So
yeah, that's great. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, it's good. Caitlin, did you have anything you wanted to talk about with mom guilt? Anything to share on that?
No, I mean, I think we all go through it and we all deal with it. But actually, I do have something to add to that.
Okay.
One thing I was going to say, in this business, you need a mentor and you need a friend. And I think when it comes to mom guilt, you need someone that you can talk to about that, because they're going to bring you up and make you feel like a normal human being, because they're going through the same thing. So I think that's really important. Yes, we all do go through it.
Yeah, that's so true.
You're absolutely right. So connecting with each other, whether it's, you guys are friends, whether it's team members, whether it's in a group like this, so many of us can relate to these experiences. I'm watching the comments and someone says, over the weekend, they wrote a contract from their master bedroom closet. And, somebody else is watching right now while they're at a doctor's appointment for their son. So, so these are common experiences that we all have. But if we're not sharing them and we're not talking about them, then sometimes I think we sort of feel ashamed and we start to feel bad. And until we can talk about it, we realize that other people have the same. So let's share a couple of strategies. I usually try to keep these to about 30 minutes, but I feel like we could go on and on all day. Let's talk about some strategies of what has helped. So, Caitlin, do you have any specific strategies that have helped you?
So I try to be better about that 5 to 7 time, because that is my time with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to keep it exclusive to her. Strategies, hiring out for sure. I ended up hiring someone, like I said, a couple weeks ago, and she's really handling the transaction side of it, the client care side of it, doing things that I didn't have time to do, like pop buys. I'm ordering them, she's putting them together and making sure they go out on time.
Perfect.
So those are my 2 biggest strategies that I use right now.
Okay. That's good. That's excellent. Courtney, how about you?
I would say the number 1 for me is the Google Calendar.
Yeah.
That has helped out so much. Any planning things like that. I mean, Karen, I know you're like the queen of planning, and I aspire to be that way, but it's just not me really. But I now have the menu thing on my fridge.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. Google Calendar, and then Sundays, using those days as like a planning, hitting the grocery store, making sure that I meet with my husband, Philip, and talk about our week, and, and scheduling in not only work, but when are we going to the gym? When are we getting some personal time in? Because that was another struggle, is I think everyone needs some personal time. And I know a lot of moms don't get it, it's tough.
Yes.
So
yes,
scheduling helps.
That's great advice. And you're absolutely right about that. We think we're doing the right thing by putting ourselves last. But really what we're doing is we're hurting everything else, because the more depleted we become, the harder it is for us to serve and care for our families and for our children and to our clients. So it is important to schedule that stuff. I am a master about the scheduling. So for me, my best strategy or tip is to it's a combination of what both of you said: delegating as much as you can, making sure you're delegating the important things. And that doesn't have to mean spending money. Sometimes when people think delegating means it's going to be expensive, but there's a lot of things that you can do to delegate that don't necessarily cost money. Or if your kids are older like mine, get them involved in the process. Like, it was so eye-opening to me when my oldest was in 7th grade, and the class, it used to be called home ec when I was in school, but now they call it FACS. And they taught them how to do laundry, and he had an assignment to do homework that involved laundry. And I was like, well, look at this. He knows how to do laundry. And so from that day on, he and his middle brother and his second brother, they do their own laundry. Even the little one, kind of knows how and helps with it. So they are so much more capable of doing things than what we think they are. And so that is definitely one of my strategies. A lot of my things I talked about, I did a talk on time management, time mastery, the Virginia Women's Business Conference. And so if you go to our YouTube channel, which is empoweringwomeninrealestate.com, you can watch my talk there. And I talk about a ton of specific strategies of things that I use in my house and with my kids to deal with all of this and to manage all of the day-to-day. So I've been kind of monitoring the questions. Dina just mentioned and said, talking about mindset, definitely mindset is an issue for all of us. I mean, and I think that's where taking care of yourself is important, putting yourself last, and that helps with the mindset. I was just looking to see if we had any other. I think we've addressed a lot of the questions that we've heard and that people have talked about before. So, any closing remarks you guys want to add? Any last minute things?
Real quick on mindset, I think I've learned. I am so big into self-help and reading and listening, and I think that the main thing for mindset that has helped me is waking up before my kids.
Yes.
I mean, obviously not right now. I'm still learning. I mean,
right.
She's 5 weeks. So, I mean, I'm not getting up before her, but when I'm in a groove, waking up before them and setting your, the tone for the day and reading something positive or, writing, a journal entry or something definitely helps to just feel, positive for the day.
Yeah. That's great advice. That is one thing that I wish that I had done when my kids were little. I didn't start waking up before them until they were, until probably 6 years ago. And I wish I had done it sooner, because it makes a tremendous difference in how you approach your day and just having that little bit of time for yourself. Caitlin, do you have any last minute things for us?
No, I think exactly what you guys said. Taking care of yourself should be number one. I mean, just going to the gym, not even to work out, honestly, just to get your, adrenaline pumping and get your day started. It changes your mindset. To the positive. So I think that's a good thing to do.
Okay, good. Awesome. Very good, ladies. So look at us. That was like exactly 30 minutes. So that was perfect. So I thank you both very much. I appreciate you coming on and doing this with us. I am going to post the replay to the group and also on our YouTube channel for anybody who wants to watch it, or if you want to share it with anybody who might find it to be helpful. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
See ya. Thanks.